Boy, he was brilliant, and he read not only the Russian primary sources, he read the sources in Greek and the sources in Latin. He read the sources in Old Norse. He read all of the medieval sources so that he could create a synthesis. And so, when I sat down to write Reimagining Europe, first as a dissertation at the University of Chicago, I thought I'm startled that there is so much material about Rus in the primary sources in Latin that never makes it into the scholarship on Rus, which is largely a Russian studies field of scholarship. It wasn't until later on that I discovered Hrushevsky, and this is, of course, my own bibliographic ignorance, and saw that he was doing 100 years ago things that I thought I was innovating, of trying to utilize Latin sources to talk about a wider picture of Rus. And I firmly believe that his narrative is still 100 years later, one of the best narratives about medieval Rusian history today. The whole history of Eastern Europe needs to be rewritten, and the translation of Hrushevsky is, of course, an enormous part of that. Serhiy Plokhy's book on Hrushevsky is called something like Unmaking Imperial Russia. And that was the goal, was to try and disrupt this traditional narrative of Russian history. And Hrushevsky was doing that from the 10th century all the way to the 19th century. It was trying to be disruptive and change the way it was structured. If Hrushevsky's narrative had been translated more widely 100 years ago when it first came out, I think we would see a very different historiography of Eastern Europe today. Because, and it's not just conservative scholars are inherently conservative in the sense that they rely on precedent. And so scholars will cite other authors. And so what you'll see time and time again is people citing other scholars for evidence that is then established. Right? If there's no one to cite for something, it makes a lot of scholars nervous to kind of go out on that limb and say something. Not Hrushevsky, right? Hrushevsky was willing to go out and say these new things. But without a model, a lot of scholars are willing to or content to simply stick to what is known, what is proven, what is demonstrated, and make incremental changes. Whereas Hrushevsky was blowing it up, right, and starting again.